Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer. As usual, I'm joined by the one and only football writer and broadcaster Dean Jones to discuss all the latest news and gossip from the world of football. Been another eventful week, Dean, on and off the pitch. Only one place we can't start, that's got to be Manchester United, making headlines for all the wrong reasons with news of stories leaking from Old Trafford inside the dressing room, undermining Ralph Rangnick. His assistant Chris Armas has been likened to Ted Lasso. Players not happy with training techniques as well and everything else. They got back to winning ways in midweek against Brighton, but how unsettling and how concerning are these dressing room leaks?
I just think it's extremely disrespectful at a time when they don't really have much reason to have disrespect for anybody. I mean, that this is a team that consistently underperform, consistently look for excuses, wave their arms around, feel sorry for themselves, and it seems refuse to take much blame for the mess that Man United have been in over the past few years. And I think it's time to for all of them to stand up and be counted. The problem United have got, especially with having Rangnick in place, is that they've played into these players' emotions and feelings, because these players can have the vibe of, okay, well, we don't like him, we can make up nicknames for him behind the scenes because the bloke's probably not going to be here next season anyway. We will be, unless they want to sell us, in which case they'll get a lot of money, we'll up our wages somewhere else, everyone will be fine. It's such a cycle that United have gotten themselves into with this Rangnick appointment and making it an interim appointment. All the noises I'm hearing is that Rangnick is not going to be the man for the long term. It doesn't help. They got a win against Brighton. That's important in terms of just raising morale around the place. You know, that they'd had 64 shots in 3 games or something. Like, it wasn't like they were playing terribly. It's just that the side don't have that winning mentality, that edge that past Man United teams did for years, and that's why they are still judged on it and still will be. But ultimately, I think they need to just start looking in the mirror a bit more and stop blaming other people.
Yeah, big job on the hands of the new manager, whoever that may be, come the summer. You don't think it's going to be Ralph Rangnick, who has suggested he might be interested in it. The normal contenders are being mentioned. We've got Mauricio Pochettino, who seemingly has the backing of the squad there at Old Trafford to maybe become manager, while Ralph Rangnick is championing the case of Erik ten Hag of Ajax to become the manager at United next season as well. Then also Luis Enrique is the latest name in the frame to take the top job at United. What's your latest take on United's hunt for this new manager?
I think United board have to study the squad and have a serious think about who is going to get the best out of this group of players and who is going to command the respect of them. So someone like Erik ten Hag, while he's a brilliant coach, fantastic reputation, from this Rangnick appointment, my fear would be that he ends up in the same boat, that there won't be enough of the players in the squad that know anything about him, have instant respect for him. There's no bond with the fans. There's no bond with Man United at all. I could see it very quickly going wrong again. I think that's why you've got to think about the personality and the character of the manager as much as what they can actually bring in terms of tactics and systems. And that's why I think Mauricio Pochettino is looking better and better as the next Man United manager from my point of view. I think that going through that squad, he'd walk in there and he would change the vibe instantly, and nobody would be able to get away with the stuff that they've been able to get away with under Solskjaer possibly, and certainly under Rangnick right now. The whole culture would change. There'll be another reboot maybe, the famous Solskjaer reboot. But that's another thing that we have to think about here. All the good things that Solskjaer did put in place, they seem to have gone. And there was a good feeling within that squad. And yeah, there was a connection with the fans, with the whole place, and that's gone already. So they already need to recapture that with the next manager. Again, I think Pochettino could do that. Pochettino could bring big signings with him. Of course, if Pochettino wants to be the next manager, they would say to him, can you get us Harry Kane? Like that, of course, that's going to be a conversation. It should be a conversation that Man United are having with their manager. Like, what are your connections here? Who's the best player that you can get into this club? And if they could get Kane and Pochettino, then straight away, you are once again looking like you might be in that title conversation. So that's where I think they have to be heading. Like Luis Enrique, yeah, look, again, good coach. I don't think that the Old Trafford crowd and half that squad would really have that same feeling for him, though, as somebody that they've seen up close, like Pochettino. Maybe even Brendan Rodgers would come back into the conversation at some point. So, yeah, I just think they have to be careful about the profile of manager they do bring in next.
Yeah, huge decision for the United board to try and get this one right. As we've seen this season, United have fallen way behind the leading pack in the Premier League, considering, as you said, under Solskjaer, finished second last season. It looked like they were closing that gap on the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool, but they've gone backwards this season, and there's going to be big changes at United on the pitch as well, with the likes of Cavani, Lingard, Pogba, all expected to move on as well.
Yeah, and it runs deeper than that as well. Yeah, because obviously Martial's gone, and Greenwood, we're not sure there'll be any future for him at the club. So, whereas we were looking at the forward line a few months ago and thinking, of course, packed there. You can't really sign another striker. Actually, it's probably the first place they're going to be looking in the summer, because they'll be like, we actually do need another forward in this lineup. So that'll be a priority. But defensive midfield is obviously a priority. It's something that has to be sorted out this summer. They can't put it off any longer. They should have seen to it in January. It's still very, very clear that Man United are weak in that area of the pitch. There's not enough options to pull back on. They're having to drop Pogba deeper than he'd really want to be playing. Him and McTominay in there. Fred obviously has been struggling with fitness and COVID. And Matic, I just don't think fits in with Rangnick's style of play. So there's just not enough options for them in that area of the field. And that shouldn't be an issue by now. It should have been seen to a long time ago. And then we've got the whole dilemma over Harry Maguire. Is he good enough? Do we need a third option in there for them to consider? A right back, it's obvious they need a right back. Like Wan-Bissaka, I think could be sold personally. I think that in the summer he could become available. There's a lot to ponder. And you think every year, like, okay, that's it. We've got the squad ready. And you're like, what about 4 more changes and a manager?
Yeah, it's never dull at Man United over the last few years as well. That's going to be a big in tray that new manager has when he does arrive at Old Trafford in the summer. He's got a lot to sort out on and off the pitch, and it's going to be intriguing viewing to see what does happen at United come next season. Just moving on to the top 4 race, Man United are firmly in this top 4 battle to see who can finish in the Champions League place. It's quite an intriguing race, Dean, really, because it looks like nobody really wants to take it because they keep dropping points in every game coming up. Recently, these top 4 rivals, we got Manchester United back in 4th now after that win against Brighton. West Ham 5th place on 41 points. Arsenal in 6th on 39 points, but with 3 games in hand over their rivals. And we've got Wolves in 7th and Spurs in 8th. Where do you see this top 4 battle right now?
2 weeks ago, I was convinced it was going to be Tottenham because I thought they got a manager with the right mentality. They had a proven elite goal scorer that looked like he might be coming into form again. And I thought that just the whole feeling, he had a good run of momentum, Conte, and I thought that with games in hand as well, Tottenham looked in a fantastic position to go on and finish in 4th. And since then, I've pretty much lost faith in almost all of those things I've just listed. Then back to the table and you're like, okay, well, actually, in terms of the strongest 11, the 11 I most trust is actually West Ham. If they could be guaranteed that their strongest team could be out on the pitch for the remainder of their Premier League matches this season, I would fancy them to do it, especially if they have less pressure. But again, there's just no certainty because we haven't seen them put in front of this scenario again. And just because of they've been there and done it before, and they've got the heritage and tradition, and Rangnick's got a point to prove. I have to say Man United might just about do it. It doesn't seem that bold of a prediction, but they probably will. And, he'll look back on it and he'll probably say it's a success if they do finish 4th, because I see that he's already been trying to point fingers at Solskjaer in the past few days and saying, he'll have to take as much of the blame as anybody else. They brought me in here for a reason. They didn't bring you in to finish 4th, but that's the least you can do for them right now.
Yeah, it seems the maximum for Man United this season in the Premier League is to get in that coveted 4th place and secure Champions League football for next season as well. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of ups and downs in the final few months of the season to see who does get that 4th spot in the table. I know you talked about Tottenham there, Dean. Just looking at their recent form, 3 defeats, successive defeats for Tottenham. First time since 2009 that Antonio Conte has lost 3 successive games. What is going on at Spurs? And has Conte underestimated the challenge that he's got on his hands at the club right now? Because when he came in, he had a big impact there. Spurs started to find a bit of form, but the last 3 games have been a real concern for everybody connected with Spurs. As you said, you fancied them for 4th, but you probably wouldn't touch them with a barge pole now for that.
Not right this second. No, I think, to be honest, it's probably a good time to reflect on their transfer window and their failings in their transfer window. Antonio Conte was extremely concerned going into the last few days about where they were at. The fact that, they didn't have the players to fit in with the system he had in mind at Tottenham, a system that he's always relied upon. And here we are right now, and it seems that all his concerns were legitimate because the players that they've got at their disposal and the players, I guess, that can change things up just aren't strong enough. The defensively as well, for the way Antonio Conte likes to play, hasn't got the players to draw upon. It's going to be a big summer window for them, and a big challenge too to make sure that they can convince Conte that the ambition is still there, that they will properly back him, because they didn't back him properly in January, and to the extent that he wanted it. That centre back that he desperately wanted, they didn't find the right profile of players. They said they would put it off until the summer. They didn't get that kind of right wing back that he wanted.
No.
And they also didn't get the backup forward and, the guy that would add extra depth and goal power that they wanted. And, yes, they brought in Kulusevski and Bentancur, and he was fine with both of those options, but it wasn't quite what they set out to do at the start of Jan.
Yeah, but do you have fears that he maybe could walk out on Tottenham in the summer if he doesn't get the necessary backing in the transfer market, as he's shown before at various clubs? He left Chelsea, he also left into Milan. So something that Tottenham fans might be a bit concerned about. If Conte doesn't get the right backing from the hierarchy at Tottenham, he might decide to look elsewhere.
Yeah, well, before they made the signings of Bentancur and Kulusevski, I did make a call to someone and be like, this is not good. Like, Conte does not like situations like this. He could walk away, surely. And they said that he won't walk away right now. Like, it is too soon, even though he's not a happy man.
Yeah.
He'll see out the season, but let's revisit it again in the summer and see what the meetings hold, how much he believes in the plan. I wouldn't say it's likely he walks away, but I certainly wouldn't say it's impossible.
Okay, moving on from one team that suffered 3 defeats in the spin to one team that's picked up 3 wins in a row, and that's taking us to Newcastle United, who obviously had a very good transfer window, bringing in 4 new signings. One of those new signings, Kieran Trippier, hit the ground running. He's been a major success for Eddie Howe's side with the winning goal against Aston Villa last weekend, but in that game also he suffered a broken foot as well, so he's facing a lengthy spell on the sidelines for Newcastle. How big a blow is Trippier's injury to Eddie Howe at such a crucial period of the season as they look to secure survival in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's a huge blow for them to lose Kieran Trippier. I mean, look, he wasn't brought in to be a goal scorer, but ultimately,
done a good job.
Yeah, he's been a talisman. There's no doubt about it, and they knew that his Premier League experience and his creativity could be key. Scoring again in that game was incredible. But look, even before he came in, I was concerned about whether he could stay fit all season. The type of injuries actually picked up, you couldn't have predicted. But he'd completed 7 La Liga games in 4 months. And he came to the Premier League and already had like 3 in the bag straight away. So I was always a bit concerned about, he's going to miss some games here. He can't possibly just go game when he hasn't been playing all season. So I think there was always a concern he'd get muscular problems, but this is bad. This is really bad news for Newcastle. I'm sure they'll play down quite how bad it is, and that he'll be back as soon as possible. And I'm sure he will be back as soon as possible. But then you've got the problem of you rush him back, he's not going to be that same player. That first week back, he won't be up to the pace, and there's always that concern, isn't there, in players when they've had these injuries, that they've just got to take it a little bit careful, and Newcastle can't really afford to have that. But they will play him because, as you say, he's been their best player. Now they've got to find somebody to step up and take over his role, which was basically, man of the match and goal scorer. So I don't know where it's coming from. The good news is that over the past few games, when they've been, riding this wave, everything's improved. The morale's improved. The fans' belief has improved. The atmosphere around the club is, it's incomparable really to where we were much earlier on in the season. And I think we finally reached the stage with Newcastle where we know where we're at. We had the takeover, but wasn't fully a takeover. Then we had Eddie Howe come in as manager, but then he wasn't there because he had COVID. And then he came in and didn't have the squad he wanted. Then we got the transfer window. And now finally here we are. Newcastle have got everything they wanted and they've got a few wins under their belts. But now they've lost Kieran Trippier. So we're left wondering, like, can they recover from that? I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, it's a good start for them, no doubt. But they have to continue this spell because if they drop off again, somebody else below them will find form themselves.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, they've got a bit of momentum and confidence now that these 3 wins have brought to help them move out of the bottom 3, but still a lot of games and a lot of points to play for. Just looking at this relegation fight, Dean, Burnley, rock bottom right now with 14 points, but with games in hand to try and close the gap. Watford in 19th on 15 points. Roy Hodgson still to have the desired impact that maybe the Watford owners were expecting from him just 3 games in. Norwich then in 18th place with 17 points. They had a good run of form, but obviously they slipped up to Manchester City last weekend, which is no surprise or no disgrace in that, really. Newcastle have moved up to 17th on 21. Everton 16th on 22 points. Leeds 15th on 23 points. How do you see this relegation fight ending up now? Are we looking at the bottom 3 right now, being the bottom 3 coming the end of the season?
I still think that Newcastle aren't out of it, so I'm not going to say that they're safe, because I still think that one of those clubs can go on another run and catch them. You know, Watford, we're still waiting for the Roy Hodgson bounce back, and I do think he will find a run of games whereby they will go unbeaten and pick up a couple of wins. We saw in the first couple of games how they just were like, right, let's set our stalls out here, let's not concede and try and nick one. You know, they drew 0-0 and then they were unlucky to lose to West Ham. So let's see if they can find out. I think Ismail Assar will be key to whether they manage to stay up, to be honest. I think he's going to be the Wilfred Zaha for Roy Hodgson there. And he used to rely on him turning games himself. And it might be that Sarr has to be that kind of figure in that team. Norwich have shown that they've got the guts for this. They've come back from the dead, really. I'd written them off a couple of months ago and they're already fighting back. So, you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and say, okay, let's give you a little longer to see what you can do. Burnley, I find it hard. I mean, even though the margins have been so tight, they really have, and they haven't been awful. They've lost by the odd goal. They've drawn a lot, but ultimately they are running out of time to actually put together a run of wins. Weghorst has been a good signing, but will it be enough? Probably not, to be honest. I think it's going to be really difficult for them. But yeah, I think Newcastle, they can't be considering themselves safe just yet. They'll still be looking over their shoulder.
Yeah, no resting on their laurels, I think, at Newcastle, especially with Eddie Howe in charge as well. But yeah, be interesting to see how they cope without Kieran Trippier, who has quickly become their talisman in recent weeks since his arrival from Atletico Madrid. Another January signing was Donny van de Beek from Manchester United to Everton. Made his impressive first start for Everton last week against Leeds. I think with the man of the match display in that 3-0 win for the Toffees. Is it any surprise, really, that we saw the best of Donny van de Beek with a rare 90 minutes under his belt?
Just finding a system that suits him, isn't it? And giving him the confidence and form and fitness to keep playing. And that's what he's finding. He's finding his rhythm. He's in a team that will suit his style of play. I think that the way that Frank Lampard's setting up will suit him down to a T. I've also been really impressed with Anthony Gordon at Everton. And I think that he's going to be a big player for them in the coming weeks. You know, we didn't talk about Everton really in that relegation battle there. And 2 weeks ago, everyone was, even last week, to be honest, everyone was. But I think that was a big win for them at the weekend. And I think that they will pick up wins like that and make sure that they're not in danger. But they've got a nice shape to them at Everton. And now Calvert-Lewin's back. It won't be long until he's scoring again. And Richarlison scored. And I think that Van der Beek will really enjoy the challenge of lifting Everton. And because let's face it, they were at such a low point. And he was too. The only way was up for both, surely. Yep. And I think that he'll enjoy that's the pressure that he's got now, rather at Man United. And Man United is like, right, here you go, Donny. You've got 7.5 minutes here. Show us what you can do. Or you've got 3 minutes left of this game. What can you do? It's like nothing. I can do absolutely nothing in 3 minutes. He needed that run. He needed a manager like Frank Lampard. And I think it's been really good for him. And hopefully it gives him that new lease of life he wanted.
Yeah, he's getting that opportunity that he's so desired at Everton now during this loan move as well, with a full 90 minutes under his belt, which he never got at Man United. Long-term future, though, what do you see for Donny van de Beek? There's no buy option in this loan deal for Everton, but if he does do well at Everton, I'm sure they would like to open talks with Man United over a permanent deal, or do you see him going back to Old Trafford in the summer and trying to push his way into the plans of the new manager, whoever that might be?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the fact that Man United's so uncertain right now over what the setup is, I think he has to go back and just see whether he fits in. Because if Pochettino, for example, did come in, you can't turn away from that challenge. He's still under contract. Pochettino, to be honest, would probably quite like a player like Donny van der Beek too. Certainly would want to give him an opportunity to find his feet at Old Trafford and give him an opportunity to make that transfer work. I think everybody still wants it to work. Whatever reason, it just hasn't, and sometimes that does unfortunately happen. And Donny's feeling the impact of that. But for sure, he needs to go back to Old Trafford in the summer and then reassess things as the season gets closer.
Yeah, and who's to say it might not be his old former Ajax manager in the dugout at Old Trafford as well. If Ten Hag gets the
That'd be
job,
handy.
that'll be handy for him as well. He knows him inside out, so maybe that's what Donny van der Beek will be hoping, that his old manager might turn up in Manchester for next season as well. But yeah, it's a bonus for everybody, I suppose. This move to Everton gives Everton a good player, and it allows Man United to see Van der Beek perform in the Premier League on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, he could have an ending to the season similar to Lingard had at West Ham when he went there. I mean, don't expect quite the same like goal contribution wise, but in terms of performances, undoubtedly you're going to be seeing man of the match performances from Donny van der Beek. You've already seen the confidence rising in him. Seems back to the player that we all know he is. And absolutely, yeah, I think that United will be watching from afar and thinking, oh yeah, this is the player we signed, isn't it? Yeah, we should probably give him another crack.
Yeah, Man United fans might be thinking, who is this player? Because they haven't seen enough of him at Old Trafford since his big money arrival from Ajax. But yeah, I think it's a win-win situation for both Everton and Manchester United going forward. Right, that's us here for another week on Touchline Talk. We'll be back next week for all the latest news and insight on the latest gossip in the world of football.